collect IOCs. It's a thing we do in the industry. It's kind of painful at times, so what do? Most of us turn to a vendor, we find a bunch of projects, so on and so forth. I went down this road, and it was not the most pleasant experience in the world, and so I ended up building my own. Here to talk about that. I'm curious, we've talked a lot about kind of classic network infrastructure. How many people here are using kind of AWS, Azure, GCP? Raise your hands. Wow, okay. There's like 3 of you. Awesome. The good news is that you don't actually have to have your infrastructure based in AWS to use this. So hopefully that puts some of you in a little bit of a position to check it out. Anyway, this is the story of what I built. This is the obligatory who I am, what I do, that sort of thing. If you like credential alphabet soup, you can insert whatever you want there if it makes you feel better. I don't really care much for credentials. I kind of like to base it on what the person has to bring of value. So that's me. The one that doesn't get my employer in trouble. This is something I built on my own. It was frustration out of something I did at work, but it was something I built on my own, so I don't want to get them in trouble for anything I say. This is probably not the best slide in the world. I had too much content, so I ended up cutting most of the memes, so this warning is quite irrelevant. Yes. There's a couple things I'm going to talk about, why I did it, the details of that, what I was aiming to solve, where it currently stands, and then where to go from here. People want to use it, contribute to it, that sort of thing. It's going to be all open sourced. I hit the make public button a couple hours ago, so as of right now, it is available for you to abuse and criticize. So why build this? I went to a lot of different vendors for threat intel aggregation, threat intelligence platforms, whatever you want to call them. And the more I dug, the more kind of upset I got with the fact that they wanted a ton of money for functionality that either wasn't built in, they bolted on, made you pay for it. Yeah, it was not my favorite thing in the world. I live in a world where automation rules everything. It's a fairly large scale. If you're trying to do this sort of aggregation and then compare it to a whole bunch of endpoints, it gets really hard to do without an API and automation, that sort of thing. So, yeah. I stole this directly from Scott. I didn't even bother to disguise this one. This is literally his slide that I just kind of put on my template. This is really important, though, because we're talking about IOCs, and it's important to realize that the thing that I'm building here really fits mostly into 3, 4, and 5. It's still important to know that 1 and 2 are still way more valuable for the most part. Just keep that in mind as we do this. Not all your eggs in the open thread intel basket. Yeah, so most vendors that I talk to, and again, I'm sorry, this is not directed at all vendors. This is an amalgamation of vendors. It was all basically IOCs, and all of those IOCs turned out to be just open source feeds, which they had then renamed, so on and so forth. The data was pretty unoriginal. It took some digging, but sometimes even viewing source on web pages would show you that they had not even bothered to actually rename the feed inside the web page. It was just hidden behind their code. Yay, look a meme. Intelligence. When I say threat intelligence, I usually want to think of something that is a little more intelligence than actually just a string or an IP address or something like that. Found a lot of the times who is information sometimes was there, maybe-ish. Depending, sometimes that who is information was ancient. There were a bunch of times when you'd have to go to multiple sources and find that it was different because someone had done a query a year ago, and that was what the who is information came from. Even lost context with the renaming of those things. Yeah. This one seems super important to me the more I dug into it. It's not really intelligent if you're just putting the same thing out and putting no additional insight around it. You could actually lose information. SSH brute forcing tells you something about your attacker. Turning that into malicious activity, probably less important. Same thing with a phishing URL, targeting Office 365. That, if you use Office 365, is really important to know. If you don't, you probably don't care. If you turn that into credential harvesting, your guess is as good as mine. A lot of them build as, we have targeted intelligence for your threat information platform, whatever you're going to do. That's basically a Google search for most of those, at least that I found. Give them 5 or 10 keywords, your organization name, something that's relevant to you, energy, something like that. And they'll give you the results back from whatever you can get in their platform. That doesn't really call targeted intelligence to me. A couple of them literally came back with their own marketing campaigns. Not really a threat, at least as far as I know. And then this was my biggest gripe, honestly. This drove me absolutely insane. Entry cost for most of these platforms is somewhere between $100,000 and $400,000. Some of them were a little higher than that. I don't think anyone fell below 100. For me, people are way more valuable than any tool you're going to find out there. You need tools by necessity to deal with the amount of data, but I can buy a couple of really good analysts for that amount of money. And I would much rather spend it there than pay someone to give me information that I'm only probably going to use 5 to 10% of the time. What it gets you varies by vendor, but usually it's pretty limited. Yeah, so again, these are all vendors. They're all providing a service. So of course, you're going to want to pay for everything. That's clearly how we all work. We just want to give out more money. API access typically is bolt-on. You want to pay more users, add a feed, even if it's open source. Some people wanted to charge for it. Literally, the free data that I can get off the internet, you want me to pay you to ingest. That just hurts me. Bulk API access, literally your firstborn. That was probably the biggest thing I wanted to solve here. And I don't know how many people use chatbots or Slack or whatever in their day-to-day lives, but I've found it actually makes our team's lives a lot easier. Even if it's just sharing information in the context of a conversation we're having. It's a lot easier to say, hey, chatbot, give me the information for X, rather than going and finding it, pasting it in, worrying about formatting it, all that sort of thing. It's right available. The rest of the team can look at it. I find that super useful, and I couldn't find a single platform that had that. They may have that now, as I've been told someone actually built one, but when I started down this road, that didn't exist. Last big gripe, and then I'll actually probably get on to the important part of this. These were some of the things that I was told by these vendors, quite literally, and they're quite terrifying. I don't know if you can read it all, but yes, if you want to query it more than once in a minute, no, or you can pay me for it. More than 20 queries a day, also, not a thing. I don't know about you guys. I do more than 20 lookups in a given day. That's a thing. Yeah, so that was kind of the eventual feeling of where I landed after doing this research and talking to people. It's pretty painful, kind of like trying to cut bread with a doorstop. I honestly have no idea why this originated, but it's kind of awesome. So yes, so I set out to build something that would probably do most of the functionality that I wanted from this and wouldn't cost me an arm and a leg and possibly a couple of analysts. So it's named ElasticIntel because I'm terribly uncreative and also a hypocrite. I really should have named it ElasticIOC because there's not a ton of intelligence behind it. And I just went on that rant. But yeah, it's based primarily in Elasticsearch. It aggregates a whole bunch of IOC feeds wherever you want to get them, usually available on the internet, CSV form, text form, so on and so forth. It's got a really robust API for searching whatever you want. It's actually just the Elasticsearch API, which I don't know if anyone's familiar with, but you can do a whole lot of things with that. It comes with the Slack bot. Yay, something to talk to. And it's very easy to get started. The idea was that you should take one command and one command only to be able to spin up the entire thing. Usually when you kind of get an open source platform of some sort, you have to wade your way through documentation for 6 hours, try and figure out why it's not working, go through dependency hell, that sort of thing. I wanted that to not be a problem, and I wanted even, Joe's shop with 2 guys who are only really doing intelligence 1 day a week to be able to stand this up and not worry about it. So this is kind of what I set out to make. Wanted roughly the same data, assuming that it's all open source feeds. Obviously, there are some stuff that people are collecting there that is not available. I wanted that to be able to be integrated, but not built in by default, obviously. I can't choose what you're going to pay for. I run my own version of this, and I don't really want to spend a couple $1,000s a month to run it for myself. I'm not made of money. And I wanted it to be pretty performant to the point where I could check most, if not all, of the IPs in my entire organization against this in real time. Talked about making it usable already, but the biggest part was not only from a stand it up in one command, but if you wanted to update it, new version, also one command. You want to make another environment, your dev environment, cool. You can also support that. We can support 3 versions at once. Company size doesn't matter. Maintenance, nice part about building on everyone else's services is you don't have to deal with it. And the API is basically the primary component of it before anything else. You've all seen this one. I'm going to throw the nice serverless buzzword at you because technically it's serverless. I don't have any servers. But it is important to remember, especially with Intel like this, it is just someone else's computer. So you don't worry about patching, but all that sensitive stuff you're storing, probably something to worry about. Obviously, there's not a lot of people familiar with AWS, at least intimately here, so it's probably a good thing I put this in here. I'll talk about exactly what all of these are so you understand what it's doing just briefly. These are the services that it uses. Elasticsearch service is relatively self-explanatory. Pay AWS money, they give you an Elasticsearch cluster. It's about as simple as that. Lambda is serverless compute. Basically, you write your code and send it off in a zip file to AWS, and they run it and return you the data that your code generates. It means no more dealing with a server to update, stand up, tear down, anything like that. Basically, you give it and go, which is super awesome. Simple notification service. This is basically your message passing system. I give it a message, it goes into a queue, something else can read it, it can trigger some events, that sort of thing. The API gateway is a service where you can essentially describe your API. So if I give you a path, I can then attach various parameters in that path to functions, Lambda functions, to trigger various things, parameters, that sort of stuff, return the data. So when you query it as a user, it literally looks like you're just talking to a random API on the internet. The other ones are the KMS, key management services, store your data securely, basically passwords and that sort of thing, API keys. Everyone's familiar with IAM in the traditional sense. This is just Amazon's version. You get permission to X, you don't, so on and so forth. S3, big hard drive in the cloud. And CloudWatch is basically where you store all the logs for everything that I just talked about in terms of services. So what did your Lambda do? What did your API gateway do? That sort of stuff. Yeah, we're going to talk about some code now. I have strong feelings about this. Please, 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 please stop writing things in Python 2. It's literally the Windows of XP at this point. It's got to go away. Stop it. Just stop. Infrastructure as code. It's a cool new thing to talk about. It's also really cool because it makes my life way better. If anyone familiar with Terraform out there? Not a single hand. Awesome. Oh, wait, there's one in the back. You're awesome. Basically, what Terraform does is it says, I want a server. I'm going to give you the properties of that server. when I run this code, you will create it in whatever service provider you're using, be it Amazon, Google Cloud, something like that. The really cool part about that is that it means whatever you describe in that code is what the state of your infrastructure is. Want to run it again? It'll put it back to whatever it has drifted from. If you want 10 more servers, you literally just increase the quantity to whatever you want them to be, run the code again, and you have 10 more servers. It's super, super useful for making really repeatable infrastructure and also for handing out cool little projects that nobody has to worry about spinning up for themselves. But of course, that's complicated. So I wrote some more Python wrappers around the code to build the code to run my code. Yeah. This is basically what it looks like. It's actually pretty simple. There's a feed scheduler. It's basically a cron job. Ingest some things, send them all to Elasticsearch. User can talk to whatever you want. And I added some intelligence in the form of something that will do whois lookups for you automatically. So our feed scheduler Lambda just checks once an hour to see if it's supposed to be doing anything. If you've set a particular feed to be ingested at 8 o'clock, if it happens to be 8 o'clock, it will tell the ingest Lambda, ingest that thing. It basically just runs and checks and sends a message off to say run things. This is kind of the meat of everything. It subscribes to the notification system whenever it gets a notification. It says, OK, I'm supposed to do things. Let me go out, get the data for that feed, download it. I'm going to parse it from whatever it is, CSV, tab separated, something like that. And puts it up in Elasticsearch. For anyone who's familiar, it's using the Python pandas libraries in the back end to make sure that I don't parse things incorrectly, because I'm not smart enough to write a parser. Figures much better to make somebody else do it for me. This is going to tie to our whois things, but it's an interesting conundrum here, is that you're time boxed by lambdas. You can run anything for a max of 5 minutes. Which means you're going to have to do things either quickly or not at all. You also only pay for what you use, which is a pretty great thing because it means it makes it a lot cheaper when you're not using it. I don't know about you guys, but I don't download Intel feeds all the time. It happens once a day, twice a day, something like that, and the rest of the time it just sits there. Do it in 5 minutes, but the less time you do it, the cheaper it is. Super nice. How many people have ever experimented with Python threads? Did you guys have fun? Keep your hand up if you had fun. Yeah, no one. It's not a thing that's great. It's gotten better in Python 3. Sorry. It's a little harder in Lambda because they had to do some things to make it so that you didn't blow away all the underlying services. Basically, you have a whole bunch of everyone's code running next to each other. And if you happen to exhaust the resources on that machine, you can crush somebody else, or even yourself. So they put in a bunch of things in there to protect it. Turns out you can get around them a little bit and actually utilize threading inside of a Lambda to do things like whois lookups really quickly. That's basically it. This is the reason that whois lookups can take a while. The difference between making 100 queries and 10 queries 10 times. For those of you who have ever done this type of kind of network-intensive thing, it doesn't seem like it'd be much of a difference. But when you do this 200,000 times, it takes quite a bit of overhead. And one process that took 1 second or 1.25 seconds gets multiplied out by a lot. I ended up doing this a lot, so it was a thing to really address. This is the whois Lambda. Runs every 3 minutes across 15 different regions because I had to blow AWS's limits away a little bit. Any IP in the system that does not have whois information, it will automatically retrieve it and then go get the whois information. The reason that it's across 15 different regions is that Amazon gets angry if you try and make more than a few of these in one region because it's all IP-based and you can actually get yourself rate limited. So we work around that. Updates it in Elasticsearch and you can query it to your heart's content. So this is going to be the bit about feeds and how it all works. It sounds all complicated. It's really not. If you can write or read JSON, you're pretty much good to go. Even if you can't, you can copy the template. That's pretty simple. This is what a feed looks like. We've already touched on Bamboo before today, but this is their C2 IP infrastructure master list. It comes in CSV form. The primary indicator in this list is an IP address. Is that moderately visible? But basically, you give it the URL, what you want it to look like at the end, and what it looks like currently. So in that case, I didn't want to change any of the names for the source or the destination. They're literally all named the same thing. And this is all you have to do to add a feed. It's literally just fill out this little form, put in the, fill out the blanks, and add it back into the folder structure that is in the project, and it will start downloading it for whatever interval you schedule. This one gets triggered at 8 a.m. in the morning. Pretty straightforward. End result of all of this, it's doing about 37 feeds right now. That 250K is kind of a lie, actually. That was the average over a few days where one of the feeds was very low activity. It's actually somewhere closer to 500,000 a day right now. Costs somewhere between like $100 and $120 a month to run, which is a pretty far cry from $100,000 or $400,000. So I'm pretty pleased with that one. If you want to downsize and not have quite the same performance from Elasticsearch, you can go even lower. You don't get charged for API queries. That's my favorite part. We can query 100,000 times a day or more and does not break a sweat, which is pretty awesome. It will do 10,000 queries in a minute. So if you have a huge lookup, great. Go for it. I would love to see some people actually break the limits. I pushed it up to 25,000 so far, and it did fall over a little bit, but I can always make bigger instances. That's cool. And the last part is full text search. So if you have ever used Splunk or even Elasticsearch or something like that, you can do a whole lot of logical operation on the data in your IOCs, which means that if you want to find something that has been hitting every couple hours for 3 different feeds, from whatever who is information, you can actually do that in sort of a contextual manner rather than just running a raw string search for whatever your company name is. And I feel like that's a lot more useful. So if anyone is interested in contributing, I would love some help on this. It's a lot of work to kind of build something like this. It would be awesome if people give it a try. Even something as simple as adding more feeds. I went out and looked for open source feeds. I'm sure people have favorites that are not in this list so far. If you want the full list, it's just in the folder on the project. Kibana dashboards are always cool. They give you some really interesting insights. If you want the chatbot to do different things, like keep you company when you're lonely in the SOC or what have you, that's cool. Totally willing to take requests. If you want to add it, that's fine too. API-based feeds are something I really want to work on, and we need to get kind of going to be able to query some of the more interesting stuff. So if you really feel like tackling that one, go for it. It's something that's on my list as well. For those coders out there, unit tests are a thing. They're kind of limited in this project right now. It's not my best work in that regard. But, time, that's a big thing. And then the last thing is adding integrations. Shodan integrations to all IP addresses would be super cool. I think if you had that automatically whenever you went to look up an IP address, that would be a huge time saver. A pastebin scraper is something I've been tossing around for contextual type of people dump something with your keywords in it. Want to pull that in here too, that would be great. So yeah, that's kind of where I want to go. If there's something that you would like from this that you don't see anywhere, it just doesn't appeal to you, whatever, reach out to me. I would love feedback on this. If you want to do something, if there's a source you want, if there's an indicator you want of some sort that's not your typical indicator, let me know. Elasticsearch is awesome, then it's all JSON, which means you're not tied to a particular type, meaning a particular format. It'll take mostly key value pairs for anything, which is super, super useful when you may not have the most structured data in the world. that's the repo if you want to go find it. That's my clearly classy Twitter handle. I actually go by Security Clippy most of the time because I use a Windows laptop and everyone in my office made fun of me for it, so now I'm Clippy forever. I see a ton of Windows laptops in here, so you guys make me feel better. But anyway, yeah, that's all I've got for that one. Thanks to Scott for actually pushing me to do this talk. I had not really considered putting it out there in terms of a talk, and he said, someone might be interested in that. You should probably talk about it. So I did. It's his fault. Blame him if you're bored. All right. I think that's the end of it. Thank you very much for having me.